been so many times in my broadcasting life where my phone has gone off in the background. So now it's like one of these OCD things I do where I turn my phone down about 10 times before I start recording.
Yeah. You have to keep double checking. Yes.
Real Estate for Real. I'm Eric Pettigo, joined once again by one of my favorite guests of all time. This is what, your third appearance now?
I think so, yeah.
All right. Julie Davis back with me today, and we got a fun one.
Oh, yeah. I love your music, by the way. I think that music is just, I don't know how you chose that, but it's really good.
My younger brother is a very talented musician. And so I just told him I want an intro for my real estate podcast that's kind of like acoustic-y and like relaxed. And he ignored me completely and gave me that, and it turned out great.
Do you know, it is great. And I like it because there's a little bit of mystery to it.
Okay.
You feel like you're going into a Law and Order episode or something.
Well, we may be after this.
Who knows?
So you are here today. We've been emailing back and forth for a while. I did one, I don't know, a month or so ago, where I wanted to come in and talk about appraisals and the importance of communication. And you responded to that email because you had some stuff about communication you wanted to talk about. And if we have some time later, we might touch on that. But you sent another email a few weeks ago saying maybe let's talk about some commission stuff.
Which is always a dangerous topic.
So I know.
Here I am.
I know Mike Busher right now when he's listening to this replay is going, oh no. But Mike, I've got Julie here. We should be safe. Right?
I don't know about that. Yeah. Do they put old people in jail? I don't know.
Is there somebody old in this room? I don't know. I don't see anybody. But I don't want to like put words in your mouth or anything, but I think what you're wanting to talk about is the importance of offering a co-op to a buyer's agent when you go in for a listing, and kind of along those lines, and how to have those conversations. So
I think one of the things that is really important to understand is that we have all tested this and that, and to try to see what makes the most sense.
Yes.
How can I find the words that are going to resonate with that seller? And so what I say may not be what works for you. You know, I can only give you one or two ways of maybe possibly dealing with that.
Yeah.
And it works for me. That doesn't mean it would work for somebody else.
And that's a great point. And that's one of the things I feel like doing my job is I always want to make sure that I'm sounding authentic that I'm saying something rehearsed or something that I took from somebody else. I want to be genuine when I'm talking to my clients or my potential clients. And so, yeah, what works for me works for me. I've been doing it as long as I've been doing it, and I try not to take any direct verbiage from anybody else if I can.
You know, one of the things that I've learned along the way dealing with buyers and sellers, that everything you say and everything you do is leading them and educating them so that they can make intelligent, well thought out decisions for themselves. And so one of the things that's hard about a topic like this is that, you know, I'm going to tell you what I say, but I get away with saying that because of everything I've said up to that point that has led them to accept the information I'm giving them now.
Sure. And I guess full disclosure before we get into this, there is no set industry standard in commissions.
No, there's not. There's not.
And they are fully negotiable by law. There we go. I think I covered us. Now we can talk about whatever we want.
Yeah, I think that's true. The company certainly has some guidelines that we have to follow.
Yeah.
But how you have to follow the company guidelines, but we all do things a little bit differently. And as long as you're above, beyond, or complying with the company part, then I think we all have our own standards too.
100%. So that is it's a conversation that we all have to have when we
Right.
go in for a potential listing appointment. It very rarely have I sat through one of those and we've gone through maybe paint this and maybe update this and then okay, we'll have you on the market by night. Very rarely do those conversations happen without them saying, and how much am I paying for this?
Right.
And then that's when we get into the commission talk. And then the question always comes in, well, is that negotiable? And so it's tough to go in, but it's especially as a newer agent, and kind of advocate for yourself and express your worth and kind of, stand firm and hold your ground on, this is what I charge. And I'm going to be worth it for you. So
You hit the right button, though. It's our job to earn their respect.
yes.
It's our job to prove our worth, and ultimately, it's our job to earn their loyalty and their trust
Yeah.
in that process. So it really is a process. One of the questions, I don't get it too often, but it's one I hate. You answer the phone, and the guy says, "So and so referred me to you, and what do you charge?"
Yeah.
And I always try to put myself in the other guy's shoes. What that person is saying is, money is very critical to me, commission is very critical to me, and they want an answer to their question.
Yes.
So my answer to that question is, I charge everywhere from 2.5% to 3.5%, and I can't be really more specific until I see your house. So let me tell you what my process is.
Okay.
I'm going to come out and take a look at your house. We're going to go through it. I'm going to make some notes. I'm going to measure some things. I'll be there about 30 minutes. And then I'm going to go back to my office, and I'm going to write for you a business plan. And it's going to include things we need to do to get your home show ready. I'll write you a marketing plan. I'll write you pricing strategies. And by the time I do that, I'll be able to tell you specifically what I'm going to charge you to list your house.
Okay.
I do all of that for free. So why would you not let me do that?
Right.
You're going to walk away, even if, and I always tell them when I come back, then we'll decide if we're a good fit.
Sure.
So basically, I've said, you're going to get all this stuff from me for free. And when I say, we'll see if we're a good fit, I'm really saying it's okay for you not to hire me, but it's also okay for me to not choose to be hired.
Yeah.
And so now if they like what they hear, they're hoping they meet my criteria
Yes.
as much as I hope I meet theirs.
Yeah.
And as soon as I say that, that whole question goes away. I've given them parameters. It's
Yeah.
going to be this to this. That's what I charge. So, and that may not be what somebody else charges, but that's how I work.
And so you did throw actual numbers in there.
But I give them a pretty broad range.
You did. You did.
And I'm only talking about me as a listing agent.
Exactly.
I haven't brought up anything else.
Right. And so, but there is that other side of it. There's what we are going to offer to the buyer's agent. Mm-hmm. So when do you work that into the conversation?
When I come back
Okay.
the next time, first of all, they're happy with those numbers because they were thinking something else, I'm sure. So when I come back, we go through all of those pieces that I just mentioned. And to go through all of that takes a good 30, 40 minutes. Mm-hmm. So I think one of the most important things is you have to have a killer listing presentation. By the time I'm through going through those pieces, you hope, you think, and generally they want me.
Yeah.
So they're already made that decision. And then I say to them, Now, every seller is given the opportunity to offer compensation to the buyer's agent. If you ask me what I would do as a homeowner, this is what I would do.
Mm-hmm.
But you do have options. And before you make that decision, let's go through the pros and cons of every one of those decisions, because there is no decision that has only an upside. Everything has an upside and a downside.
Yeah.
Now, that I'm sure creates fear in some people's hearts when I say, first of all, you have an opportunity, so it is their choice. And I never say we have a company policy. That's, to me, a kiss of death.
Really?
That's like saying, I don't know, I'm not good enough. You know?
Yeah.
I think my job is to educate them. And so I talk to them about offering nothing, offering a minimal amount. I've already told them what I think that they should do, but I go through the pros and cons of all those decisions.
That all of that makes great sense. I will say, for me personally, especially when I was starting off, going in and kind of having that shield of company policy was helpful.
Yes.
Because it takes a while to build up your confidence in this business. And so when you first start off and you go in, what you can say is, when they say, well, can you take less than that? And then I said, well, my company policy won't let me. And honestly, I wouldn't anyway, but I can't. Even if I wanted to, I can't. And we have the backing of being at the real estate group.
Right.
Who sells more business than everybody. We sell more property than anybody else in town by a lot. And so being the most successful brokerage, the policy in place, it's a proven formula, right? So it's not, I've always felt like that's been a beneficial thing a lot of times in these, and it's shut down conversations pretty quickly. Like you want a real estate group, sign in your yard.
I agree, and I'm not going to tell you there haven't been times when I've said that.
When you've used it, yeah.
But think about this. This is not new. From day one, when I got into real estate 100 years ago, there was a policy.
Not true. It wasn't 100.
Well, it wasn't quite. But there was a policy. I've never worked with or worked for or had in my own company. You always have some kind of rules. But in my training, I would say to agents, why should I pay you X percent? And of course, this is back before we separated things. And you would see these new agents, their eyes would just sort of glass over. And one of them said to me, I have no idea. I wouldn't pay me that much.
I wouldn't pay me that much? Oh, my gosh.
You go ask a agent who's been around for a long time, a top producer, you ask them that question, you might as well pack your lunch. You're going to be there for a long time.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot of reasons why they're worth it.
Oh, yeah. Here's why I'm giving you a deal at what I charge. You should be paying me more.
Exactly. But I also think that a lot of that is in the setup, because when I talk about my marketing plan, there are several things in there that point to the fact that we are the largest.
Yes.
And for example, when we have the ability to go in and see who's shown property in certain price ranges, I do that every week for my sellers, because if somebody's in their price range and they didn't show their house, that's an opportunity for me to call them and have a little touch point. Now, they may say, well, your house is in Chatham, my people want to be in Springfield. Okay, fine.
Sure.
Or they may say, I want a 2-story, your house is a ranch. That's fine. But it gave me an opportunity to talk about it one more time.
Yeah.
And so there's somebody out there one more time who knows that. And so I think the fact that if I'm going to show a $300,000 houses to people, it's not possible not to show a real estate group listing, because we have so many of them.
Right.
So even if that person is buying from Remax or Keller Williams or whoever, they will have shown at least one of our properties.
Definitely.
So our size does make a difference, because it helps in my prospecting efforts to reach those people.
Yeah.
And I've said all of that leading up to this moment. Two things, kind of little slightly off topic, but I think I always try to look at the other guy's point of view to get a really strong sense of where are they coming from and what is the objective likely to be and why is it there. And I think that if you think about it, the average consumer thinks we sit in the office every day and the phone rings and someone says, come show me this house. And you do, and they write an offer, and now you're making all this money.
Yeah.
They don't realize I've been working with that person for a year and a half.
Yes.
They don't realize I have to show them all these other houses before we hone in on yours. It's not that easy, but the consumer doesn't know that. And it's partly our job to make sure that they really understand what it is that we do.
Yeah. Yeah, because I don't know how much time you spend online on social media.
Very little.
It's smart. It's very smart. But it's there is it's a loud opinion out there among a lot of people, and that we make way too much money and we don't earn it. We don't work hard enough for what we make, and and that is it's very loud. I think it's a minority because we always have, anytime you see those comments, there are always just as many that buck up for us and say, whoa, no, you don't understand.
Yeah.
I put my realtor through that.
Yeah. Well,
they should have made way more.
I was asked to speak at an event on customer service not too long ago, and one of the comments that I made was, in my business, people want to come into the real estate business because we show pretty houses, and we bring joy into people's lives. And I say, yeah, we do.
That's part of it.
To get there, we have to go through fear, anger, distrust, frustration, people mad at us, husbands and wives mad at each other, the children don't want to come, and of course the dog doesn't either. Mm-hmm. And so we have to work through all of that emotion and all of that fear that goes in and anxiety, and then we get to joy and happiness.
Hopefully, right. Yeah. But a lot of times we experience all of that stuff, and I guess not a lot of times, but sometimes we don't even get to the end part. Everything just falls apart.
And you made nothing.
Yeah.
So you have to make that up somewhere.
Right.
I do a lot of relocation work. So I meet these people when they're interviewing, and I do a lot of them and they don't take the job. But if they do take the job, then they want to rent for a year and a half. And you have to stay in touch. You have to you have to help them all the way with their utilities, their dentists, their everything they need before you ever get to the point of, are you ready to buy now?
Yeah.
And so you're looking at 2 years investment of time and effort to get to that point. And people don't know that.
No.
The other thing that I think, and I think agents are guilty of this as well, owners and managers have always understood that real estate is really 2 transactions. It's not one. There is a listing side. There's a skill set that's required to be a really good listing agent. And there's expenses to getting that person, marketing that property, and all of that.
Yes.
Then there's the selling side. Totally different skill set.
So different. Two totally different worlds.
Not everybody can do both.
No.
But they also have expenses and time and so on. And so you have to look at it as if it's 2 different things. Now with the recent changes, they've broken it into those 2 piles for everybody. The consumer sees it, everybody sees it. But we've always really known it was there.
Yeah.
And in that sense, I think it's a good thing because you're able to say to the seller, here's all the things I'm going to do, and they're happy with what they're paying you.
Yeah.
And then you give them the opportunity to offer something to the buyer's agent.
Yeah. And so has your conversations, have they changed since August of last year when they?
Well, what really is a disclosure situation.
Yeah.
It's always been. It's just different in the way we have to present it. So back to kind of where we originally were, after I tell them, here's all the things I'm going to do, and here's what I charge, and they're happy, I'm happy, everybody's happy, then I say you have the opportunity to offer something to the buyer's agent. If I were in your shoes, this is what I would offer. And I do make a suggestion. But then I say to them, before you make that decision, let's walk through this and see what we really think.
Right.
One of the things I think a lot of people don't think about, and I tell people, if you offer no compensation at all, then you have to consider the fact that there are some people who would like to buy your house and can't, because a buyer has to come up with a down payment. They have to come up with all their closing costs. They have to factor in the expenses of moving.
Yeah.
And then they also have to make some adjustments to your house, painting or whatever, to make it fit for their family. And now you're asking them to compensate directly for their agent.
Yeah.
Okay? So they only have so much money. By offering them some compensation, you're allowing them to put that compensation into their mortgage.
Right.
And that's less cash that they have to come up with to be able to buy your house.
Yeah.
So that's a factor you need to figure in. You're going to lose a few people because they don't have the cash. If you offer no compensation, that doesn't mean the agent's not going to write it on and an addendum on your contract anyway. So
Bingo.
And they
There
can
you
go. They can say, "Well, I'll just wait for somebody to do that." That's certainly
Right.
That's certainly an option as well. Except you lose those buyers with the cash problem. With the not enough cash flow.
Right.
So that's really kind of a challenge as well. And then I also mentioned to them, we've done all this financial analysis of what your house is worth. All of those comps I used had some compensation in them for the buyer's agent.
Yes.
So if I take that out, we kind of have to go back to those comps and redo them.
I mean, this is something that it occurred to me when all these changes happened last year, and then the narrative out there was, well, now buyers have to pay their own agents, and that was what was being like posted all over media and everything. Those were the headlines, and that's what people believed. And then my thought was immediately, buyers are funding these whole transactions anyway.
Right.
The buyer's money goes to the seller. The seller then pays commission to both the agents with the money they got from the buyer. So if we're taking, X percent from the buyer, if we're taking X percent out of what the seller has to pay and then putting that on the buyer, then remove that X percent from what buyer can afford. So it's the same money. And so now we're just, okay, so if you don't want to pay it, then expect, if it were to truly kick in that way where all buyers were paying their own agents, then we could expect to see, theoretically, a potential dip in property values from before the change happened.
I think potentially that could be, but I think the bigger issue is all the people. Now, we all have some clients buying their 10th or 11th house,
Sure.
and they've built up equity and all this kind of thing. For them, maybe it's not such a big deal, but there are so many people who are buying right where they can afford.
Yes.
And you've just now said, you can't afford my house.
Right.
So that's a problem. I also always kind of conclude that conversation with, I'm going to always net your dollars down. If we get more than one offer on your house, we're not going to look at the price, the asking price. We're going to look at, what does this mean to you?
Yes.
What compensation am I paying? What are the closing costs going to be? Are they asking me to pay for part of their closing costs? Do I have to add a warranty? I want to net it down so you can really see which one's the best.
And we've been having those conversations forever, since way before the
Right.
changes even happened, because I know that was always in it. It's easy for a seller to get hung up on that. If an offer comes in and let's say the buyer is asking for a $5,000 closing cost credit, that for some reason, that's what they focus on. Why am I giving them $5,000? And I said, whoop, that doesn't matter. Here's your net. You okay with that? If not, then we need to counter.
Right.
Don't focus on the closing cost credit. It's all about the bottom line, and that hasn't changed, right? And so that's when I go in for my listing appointments, because despite, I mean, we've mentioned our company policy a few times, and despite the change that happened last year, our company policy has not changed,
Right.
which is fine. But I go in now, and people have seen the headlines, and they, well, do we have to offer? And I say, well, here's what our company policy says, that we need to be willing to. However, what we are going to look at when offers come in, the buyer's agent now has to request their compensation from us. Mm-hmm. So that could be anything, right? To give, in order for us to list, you have to say, yeah, you have to be willing. However, we're not advertising that anywhere. We can't put that online that we're offering this much. When the offers come in, we'll see what they ask us. We'll look at the bottom line.
And make that decision.
And if that works for you, it does. And if not, we'll counter. It's that easy, and it's always been that easy.
It's always been that easy. And using the company policy as an excuse, it's kind of like the process that I just kind of described to you. Mm-hmm. When I say you have the opportunity, if you don't want to offer anything, that's your choice,
Yeah.
That violates company policy. Now, does that mean I'm going to take that listing? Probably not.
Right.
But that is their choice.
Sure. Yeah.
It is their choice.
Yeah.
And I've already told them what I think they should do. So, and it's amazing to me, some consumers are really, really smart. I had an upper bracket listing way up there, and the agent came in and asked for a certain percentage in their contract, because I'm sure that's what was in their contract, although I don't know, don't care.
Yeah.
And my people said, well, I'm not going to pay that. I'll pay the agent this, which was still a really good compensation.
Sure.
So we accepted the price, but they made a couple of adjustments in closing date and this and that, and agent compensation to the buyer's agent.
Yeah.
And
So you accepted the price, but you countered the offer.
And the buyer says, why didn't you just increase the price so I can pay my aid?
Right. Right.
And I'm like, the consumer gets it sometimes better than we do.
Well, yeah, and Julie, I've run into that so many times, and because I've gone in, because I have what's on our buyer agency agreement, I have, and then we make an offer, and I don't know how you do it. I never ask what the co-op is.
I don't even want to know.
I don't want to know.
That's just another contingency of our contract.
Exactly. I make the offer, I request my compensation, and then I've had multiple agents say, oh, we accept. However, they're only offering this much. So I went ahead and made that change. And I go, whoa, then you did not accept. This is a counter to our offer, because part of our offer included what I asked for. Mm-hmm. So you didn't accept. So if this is your counter, let me know, and we'll adjust. And then if we need to, we'll adjust the price. And that's, as long as the buyer's okay with that, I have to go back to my buyer. I say, okay, here's the deal. They're here on the sales price. However, they only want to give me this much. So our agreement says I'll get paid this much. So we can either, if you want to write me a check for the remainder, or we can add it on to the price.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's communication. And
Yeah.
on the front end, when you're filling out the buyer agency agreements, it's so important that you explain to them how these things could potentially go.
Right. It is. It absolutely is. And I think sometimes we don't do that.
No.
But that brings up a whole nother issue. I've had agents come to me for advice about, I get a call off of a sign or a call from Zillow or one of these things, and I don't know these people. And I explained to them that I have to have all this paperwork signed, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, why would you say that?
Yeah.
They have to like me.
Yeah.
You have to like me. They have never seen me. So I make the appointment. I go, and before we go in the house, I say, hop in the car for a minute. Let me explain to you how this works. And because you need to, by law, I need to tell you this, but
Yes.
also for your own knowledge, you need to know this. And if they say to me, well, other people have shown me stuff and I didn't have to sign anything, I've said, oh, don't tell me who. But I got to tell you, that's the one agent you should never work with.
Yeah.
Because if they will violate the law of the state of Illinois, what other rules are they going to bend during your transaction?
Yeah.
You need to work with someone you can trust that you know is protecting you and doing things legally correct.
Of course.
And they go, oh, really? So one of the things I do is at that point, I haven't really earned their trust, but hopefully I've got some respect. And so I have them sign a buyer's agency agreement that's non-exclusive,
I do the same thing.
and I pertain it only to that house.
Okay.
Okay, so now you go through that, you've educated them, you give them information, and they kind of like you, and they call you back, or you call them back and say, hey, I got another house. I show them the other house, non-exclusive. It pertains to this house.
Okay.
The third time I go, you know, we keep filling out this paper.
Things are getting serious.
Let's not fill out this paperwork all the time. Let's not do that. Let's convert, and then I convert them either to a non-exclusive, that's whatever, or an exclusive.
Yeah.
And so again, it's a process of leading them. You know.
I very similar. I do very similar. The first time I meet someone, now it's different. If it's a random lead that I've never met before, I've got no connection to them whatsoever. I'm just somebody showing up to let them in a house. I do the same thing. Before we go in, got to go over how this stuff works. You know, this is different than it used to be. I used to be able to just walk you right in the front door. We can't do that now. It's the law. So this is a non-exclusive. You are not tied to me unless it's something that I show you. And so you sign this. It says I get paid this way if you buy anything I show you. So we can go inside and look at this house. Afterwards, moving forward, if we're going to go look at more houses and this is a good connection, you and me, and you want me to help you find something, we'll sign an exclusive and I'll be your agent. But for now,
Right.
no strings attached here. Where this is just, I'm letting you in this house. If you buy it, I'll get paid. If not, that, you know,
No harm, no
yeah,
foul.
no harm, no foul. But if you want me to help you moving forward, I would be more than happy. And then,
The problem with some agents is they're trying to explain all that over the phone.
yes,
And then the person either doesn't show up for the appointment or never calls them back, or, you know, you have to. We've got great people with great skills. They look good. They talk well. You know, give the client something to say, yeah, I want you to take me in that house.
Yeah.
You know, so to me, that conversation needs to happen at the house, before you go in the house.
100%.
Not over the phone. Now, in an ideal, perfect world, if somebody calls and says, hey, somebody told me to work with you, blah, 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 I'm going to sit down with them in the office. I'm going to go through my buyer presentation that clearly says this is what I do, blah, blah, blah. But the people who just call you off of Zillow or something,
Right.
They have to at least see you.
and they're totally, it's two different conversations, two different types of potential clients, because if it's a sign call, a Zillow call, you don't know these people. You just say, we'll make an appointment. I'll meet you at the house.
Of course, you check them out.
Right. But if your phone rings, say, hey, you were my cousin's real estate agent and they said you were great and I have to use, and so I want you to help me. And
that's a different conversation.
Some clients come to us fully committed.
Right.
Without ever even talking to us.
That's a great way to phrase it.
And
yes.
it happens. And those are great because that's, that means you've done such a good job for somebody in their life that person has convinced them, you have to work with Julie. She is fantastic and will take great care of you. Trust me, call her. No, and then that's a good feeling.
That is a good feeling.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different kind of client.
Yeah.
To me, everything comes down to a process. And part of our job is to educate, lead, and guide them with the pros and cons of all the decisions that they make.
Yes.
So where they enter that process tells you where you have to start from.
Yeah.
And then you can kind of go from there.
So to kind of circle back, because this is things that I've and we've all dealt with, but recently I've had a few of these interactions with people I know who are thinking about selling or wanting to sell, but they really get hung up on paying the commission. They're just, oh man, I just don't want to pay commission. And I get it. It's a lot of money. When you look at it on paper, it's a lot of money. The research I've done says that overwhelmingly sellers net more when they list with a realtor.
Right. I think that's true.
Overwhelmingly. I mean, the stats are out there. But that's hard to get with. If I tell somebody that who's already on the fence about, and I say, hey, listen, you're going to get more if you list with me. Well, of course I would say that, right? Mm-hmm. This is how I make a living. Well, what am I going to say? Well, your best bet is doing it on your own. But if you want to throw me some money to do it, great. What I've been trying to explain to people, because I think I've figured out, at least partially, what the problem is I think potential sellers who aren't sure if they want to use a realtor or not, see their house as worth X amount no matter what.
Correct.
My house is worth $300,000 or $350,000. Whether you list it or I list it, it's going to bring me $350,000. Therefore, if I do it on my own, I don't pay that commission. If I do it with you, I do pay that commission. That's the mindset that so many sellers have that I'm trying to break through and say, I'm telling you that they're not the same price tags.
No.
That if I list, it's going to open the door to so many more buyers to come in
to see it,
right? So it's not like going to the store and buying something for $9.99 off the shelf. That's not a solid number that's set in stone.
I give people generally 3, once in a while only 2, pricing strategies. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I tell them is my goal is to get you the highest possible price in the shortest possible time.
Right.
That's my goal. And where you price the house, the condition of the house is important. Where you price the house is important. And how many people you expose that house to is really important. You're going to get, I don't care which of these strategies you choose, you're going to get the most money for your house if you have more than one person who wants it at the same time.
There you go.
So if you push too hard on price, you're going to wait till that one guy comes along and he wants to negotiate with you. If you price it more realistically, you may have more than one person and you can sit back and relax because they're going to negotiate for you.
Yeah.
And you're going to end up with the highest possible price. So the net dollars are really the key, and I think we need to make sure we do that.
Yeah.
You said something else. I can't remember.
Was it really smart?
It was really smart.
Good for me.
But it was something else. It was something that really resonated, but I wanted to expound on, but it'll probably come back around. I don't know. So I think a lot of it is the ability to read people and to know where you are in the process so that you don't get ahead of yourself. And so please, 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 my best advice to any agent is don't try to explain compensation over the phone.
Oh, no.
That's a kiss of death.
It is. And but you can't, some people right over the phone will say, well, what do you charge? You don't want to, I think your answer was good. It could be anywhere, but
I won't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is,
that's what I was going to tell you. I've thought about this many times. When I gave these parameters, mm-hmm. when an agent wants X and maybe has a buyer contract that says X, and the seller says Y, sometimes an agent will say, "Well, that something's better than nothing."
Yeah.
Do you realize that 0.5% in compensation, 0.5% of a $500,000 home, 0.5% means 17% of your income. If you work for the state of Illinois and they called you and said, great job, Eric. You did a wonderful job. This year, we're going to pay you 17% less.
Right.
And what do we really sell? We sell the value of our time, knowledge, and experience. We don't sell houses. We sell time. Okay. So if I walk away from something because I don't feel I'm being fairly compensated, I get more time to go find somebody else.
Yes.
Now, I realize that's a risk. I realize that's a monetary thing. You go, 85% versus 100. I don't know. You have to know what you're worth and what you're willing to risk to make sure that you get it.
1000% agree. I'm glad you pointed that out and made that comparison, that 17% less comparison, because I've had that conversation with people before too. And they say, well, I mean, can you just do this one for a little bit less? Can you just, and then I always say, no disrespect, but if your boss this week said, I expect you to do the same level of work that you always do, but we're going to knock just a little bit off your salary for this next check. Is that okay with you? No. Right. But for some reason we are viewed different. And it's a strange thing that I've always kind of struggled to understand is the fixation on what we charge, what we should be allowed to charge. And are they going to start making, laws or rules restricting what we can and can't charge? And why is our industry always the target when this is just how we make our living? And aren't we allowed to set our own worth as people who run their own businesses? Why is it such a point of contention? And I always tell people, if you don't want to hire a realtor, then don't hire a realtor. This is an optional service we provide. Nobody's forcing you to do it. We're not going door to door like selling vacuums. That's not what it's, you don't have to. You can do everything on your own. It's okay. But why complain about what we charge when you're not being forced to pay it?
Right.
And
that's a good point.
I mean, it doesn't make any sense. Well, okay, then here's my price. And I think, like you touched on it, is the willingness to walk away if somebody's not willing to pay you what you think you're worth. Mm-hmm. And that's hard to do.
It's very difficult to do, and I will be the first person in the world to say the more experience you have and the more volume you do every year, the easier it is.
Yes.
When you're new and it's a difference between peanut butter or steak. Actually, at my house, we eat peanut butter about twice a week.
I love both. Yeah.
But the truth of the matter is that it's easier when you have enough business to know that worth. But part of that still comes back to the very first thing you said is we have to prove our worth. You have to earn their respect. Right. You have to earn it. And you earn it through the process. So if you want to just skip the whole process and get right down to saying, well, there's what I charge. Oh, you don't want to deal with me? Okay, fine. Or, well, okay, I could compromise that just for this one time. No, you're never going to. No, it's a process. Work the whole process.
Yeah.
Because that's what leads them to the conclusions.
I believe this is really, really valuable stuff here, because I think a lot of people struggle with that part of it. And it's important, as you said, to when you first meet up with somebody, a listing appointment, I would say especially, is you go through everything you're going to do to help them get the most amount of money for their house the quickest. That's the goal. Mm-hmm. I want to sell my house fast. I want to get the most amount of money. Okay, here is everything I'm going to do to make sure that happens.
Correct.
And it's not just going to be, all right, well, here's what I charge. Photographer will be here tomorrow. Sign will be in the ground. Sign right here. I'll be on my way. That's, if I'm a seller and my conversation with a realtor goes like that, I'm going to go, hold on.
I can do that for myself.
Yeah. What are you charging me for this? So it's important to, start from the beginning. It's important to have some of those tough conversations with sellers of saying, here is what people aren't going to like when they come through. According to my experience with buyers, people are going to come through and see this and this and this. So you want this price for your house, and I'm telling you why that could be tough unless we address some of these problems. These are not conversations people want to have. They don't want to tell sellers that their house smells like cat pee, or they don't want to do that, but it's important, and then they appreciate it afterwards.
I used to try to posture that in terms of figuring out what are these people likely to be willing to do or pay to get me out, and then I gave up on that. And I tell people, I'm going to make a list of every single thing that I can see in your house that I think really needs to be done.
Right.
And I'm going to put them in the order of importance to a buyer.
It's very smart.
You work down the list as far as you're comfortable.
Yeah.
So when I get to the pricing part, I say, now I'm assuming that you've done at least this much, and if you do at least this much, then these numbers are good. If you don't want to do that much, then we need to make a little adjustment over here.
Yeah.
And so I'm tying it into effort versus return. And it's an easier conversation than when I was doing it the other way.
Yes. And that's a very smart way to do it. And we've all come across, we have the conversations. Hey, if we knock everything off this list, here are the comps. Here are the pictures of. I always, I'll try to bring my laptop.
Sometimes you put pictures.
Yeah, I'll try to bring my laptop and pull up. Okay, here's what is sold in the last few months.
And here's what it looked like.
Right. Here's how long it was on the market. Here's what they listed at. Here's what they got for it. Right? So it's really, really good reference points of what to expect. And so we can list at that number that we want. However, we need to check some things off of this list.
I had a guy, older gentleman, who was living with his lady friend, and the house was totally cluttered with everything.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, well, we live here, so we have to live here. So when I went out and did the presentation, I did what you did. And I showed him all these pictures, and I pointed out, I said, now all of these homes have people living in them.
Yes.
And I pointed out in two of the houses, you could tell they had small children, because over in the corner is a little kitchen, there's a little toys box or whatever.
Yeah.
And I said, and they still showed their house like this. Boy, they cleaned that baby up quick.
I mean, when you're looking at the hard evidence of, I understand, I want to get you that number too. But it's going to take some work.
Every time I clean up my own house for a party, I stand there and go, wow, this would be great if we could live like this all the time.
I know. I know.
So we all live day to day differently than we live if company's about to arrive.
Yes.
And we sometimes have to tell them that.
And when you're selling a house, it's like company is going to arrive every day. And then you get the sellers who will knock about half the stuff off the list, but still want that number. And then that's when you got to start having those tough conversations.
I had one last year, and when I got to that section in my presentation, I said, see attachment. We had over 26 items that they needed to do. And this house had been on the market a year before, and they didn't understand why it didn't sell. And when they did all those things, it sold at what they wanted.
Right.
But he was frustrated because his realtor never told him that.
And it's because it's a tough conversation, and not everybody wants to have those. They want to go in and, just like we talked about, just cover the basics. And here we go. Sign here. And there's a presentation is everything. And you never make a bigger impact than right when you list. And so people are in a hurry. Quite often people are in a hurry. They want to list their house. They want to get on the market in the next couple of weeks. Well, you've got a month worth of work here, probably.
It took us 3 months to get that house ready. But I think the fear is the agent wants to get that paperwork signed right away, because then nobody else can have it. And sometimes that's really not to your advantage.
No.
And you're not really being helpful to the people.
And I mean, it's a little more little more helpful now with the coming soons becoming, more common. Okay, well, now we can get under contract while you're finishing stuff up. And, you're still kind of rolling the dice there a little bit because not everything gets done in that amount of time. And now your activation date's here. Here we
Right.
go. And this is not a finished product. This is not ready to go. But here we are. We've got
But
the
we gotta
paperwork.
go.
Yeah, now we've got to go. So, but it's, I run into sellers who say, well, can we just get it on the market? And then, we'll kind of fix this stuff up as we go. I say, please no. Please no. This is important.
The most important day you have is day one, and
Yes.
you never get it back.
No.
You can fix it later, you can reduce the price, you can do whatever you want, but the wow is only the first day.
It is. That's when you make the splash. So I can never stress enough the importance of having a finished product ready to go, good pictures, good description, and out there to everybody day one. That's just, to me, has been the most effective way to get the most money for my sellers when I list a house. And sometimes you have to tell them about things they don't want to hear in order to get to that point,
Yeah.
but boy, they're so thankful.
I know you've heard me say this before, but I think it kind of fits in with the whole conversation about compensation. We worry about it, and
Yeah.
sometimes we worry about it more than they're worrying about it. But if you have that $300,000 house, let's focus on getting you $300,000. Let's not worry about the 1/4%, the 0.5%. What do we call that? Chasing ants through petunias while
Okay,
elephants
I
are
didn't know what we
stomping on your
called that.
watermelons. Let's stay focused on the big number.
I think
not the
you said
little
that
number.
before on this
I
podcast.
did.
Yeah, you did. I love that. Have you come across, because I have, where I've talked to somebody about potentially listing, and they said, well, I talked to this other agent X, who said they were going to list it for this amount, and it was a pretty small amount, and that's
Well,
it. That
It was the lesser amount than what you recommended, or more.
This was kind of the fear that I had when the changes happened last August, is agents going into a listing appointment and not really being fully honest, right? Because, okay, fine. So if I say I'm going to get paid this amount on my end, but I always make sure that, just so you know, when these offers come in, very, very strong likelihood that they're going to ask, as part of their offer, for a co-op, for a compensation for their agent. There are agents going out to get listings who are not making the sellers aware of that. So then they are surprised
When that happened.
when that comes in. Wait, what's this? I thought I only had to pay this much. Well, here's the offer. Well, now you've turned away other agents from listing your house who maybe were a little more upfront about what you were going to be paying with your commission, because this agent came in and said, this is all you got to pay.
Right.
And then the offers come in, surprise. Now you're and so it's,
Yeah, that's interesting.
it happens.
Yeah.
It happens a lot. And so I always say, this is what I'm making, just so you know, when these offers come in, they're probably going to come with the request to pay between like this amount and this amount, but we'll just look at them as they come in. But if an agent is telling you that all you're going to have to pay is this much, they're not being, there's a chance, sure. There's a chance if I list it, this is all you have to pay. It just depends on what those offers come in with. But if they're not telling you the likelihood of those offers coming in are going to include a request to pay the buyer's agent, they're not being fully honest, and they're just trying to get the listing.
I think that's a great way to phrase it, and,
Yeah.
and it's a great way to tell them that.
Yeah. I'm just going to be honest with you. That's what
People want to be dealt with honestly and upfront.
Yes.
And you don't have to call out somebody else. You don't even want to know who I'm calling out. But those are great opportunities to say, this is what you should know and what you're entitled to know,
Right.
as a seller. And I'm the guy, I want you to remember that I'm the guy who
I told you. Yeah. Yeah. And you're like, well, if they ask for it, does that mean I have to pay it? No, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to accept any offer.
Right.
You don't have to do anything. This is all your choice here. So if an offer comes in, you don't like what the compensation amount is because of what that does to your bottom line, you don't take it.
Well, some people don't take them because they don't want a home inspection, or
Sure.
they don't want to pay a warranty. They don't want to pay closing costs. We're just another contingency of the sale.
Right.
That's all we are.
It's exactly right. And so it's and I've found that people do appreciate that honesty on the front end of, listen, I could tell you that, but just so you know.
Well, the reason I asked that question is I've had people come in and tell them a price a lot higher than what the comps showed.
Oh yeah.
And so when they tell me that, I will say, did they do a market analysis on your house? Did they give you a list of things you needed to do to get show ready? Did they, and as you're asking all these questions, they're going, well, they didn't tell me that. They didn't tell me that. I'm amazed still at the people who walk through someone's house and go, 423.
Happens all the time. Julie, it happens all the time.
Well, you know what? If you've been around long enough, you can probably get that.
Yes.
But that's not the point. What I think is not the point. It's what can I prove?
Yes.
And so people will say, well, what do you think? And I'll say, I have an opinion, but I'm going to hang on to that because it's not what I think. It's what I can prove.
Right.
And so then when I come back, if the numbers come in lower, sometimes I will say, when I was here, I really thought it was going to be a little bit more. But these are the numbers.
Yeah.
And right now, there are so many good agents out there. You got to understand that buyer's agent's going to do that analysis for their client as well.
Yes.
You can't just, well, I always figure these are the facts. You cannot discount the facts. You can't defy the facts. They are the facts.
No. Yeah. You can't
Now,
change them.
What do you choose to do about it? That's up to you. But this is the way it is.
I'm glad you brought that up about buyer's agents because that is super important. I think as a buyer's agent, especially now when in the last 5 years prices have gone crazy, is you can't just go in and say, okay, well, here's the listing price. And they go, oh my God, I want it. Say, all right, we'll draw it up, send it over.
And some people are doing that.
A lot of people are doing that still, but we've got to protect our clients. And so sometimes from themselves,
right.
They want it. But it's got a new countertop. So I want to give, just hold on, look, here are the facts. Here's what's sold. Here is what the market is saying that this house is currently worth, which is less than this price tag that they have on here. So now, armed with that knowledge, what do you want to do? Sometimes they still, I don't care. I want the house.
I love the people who say, I just put in a $5,000 new countertop, so
Yeah.
I want $5,000 more. And the minute they say that, I go, sometimes I list a house and people have a new roof, and the roof costs them $18,000, so they want to add $18,000 to their roof. Mm-hmm. People who buy a $200,000 house, they expect a roof.
Yeah.
The fact that yours is new is real nice. And they may choose you over somebody else because of it, but they're not going to give you $18,000 more.
No. There are so many things I tell my sellers all the time. This will help your house sell quicker, but not necessarily for more money.
No.
Up front, right? This will help somebody come in and want to make an offer day one.
Houses are really worth a range, not a number.
Right.
And stuff like that will help it sell to the higher part of the
Sure.
range, and a pit will sell at the bottom. So you have some choice in there,
Yeah.
but you don't get to go over that number.
No, and it's a lot of times it'll be like, well, I'm going to take out all this wallpaper and I'm going to scrape the popcorn ceilings and I'm going to spend this money I'm going to cut down this tree. And so I'm going to put, $15,000 into these things. So can I then say, no, we're not going to put on the listing, no more popcorn ceilings. We're not, we're not going to cut a tree down. That's not, so those are the kind of things where I was saying, like, this will help your house sell faster, but you're not going to potentially recoup that money specifically.
Those are the same people who won't paint their front door or put a
Right.
new door latch on,
Right.
which is two of the most important things. Yeah. Okay.
Yo, you're right. And so I guess put a bow on this thing, because I hear the scuttle going
I
on
know.
out there. We got the party getting ready to start,
Yeah.
a big Thanksgiving party. So
It's always fun talking to you. I love talking about real estate. And
Me too.
I learn something every day. That's what keeps it exciting.
Yeah.
That's what keeps it interesting.
yeah.
So
And I think, I mean, to sum it up, you go in, explain everything you're going to do to get the seller the most money, the quickest, and be honest. And be honest and let them know the importance of paying a buyer's agent when they come in with a good offer. I mean, don't try to hide that fact.
No.
Don't.
it's a process.
It
Don't
is.
skip a step.
It is. Julie Davis, it has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you for
always
reaching
fun
out
to
and,
talk with
and,
you.
and wanting to come back on here. I appreciate it. One of my favorite guests of all time, and just one of my favorite agents. So, all right,
Thank you.
let's go eat some good food.
All righty.
Want to?
Bye.
See ya.